Hi everyone, I'm Nitin. I'm a security researcher here at Reco, and today we're going to talk about ShinyHunters. So we're going to talk about what they did exactly, what we saw there, and how to protect yourself. Um, so let's start. I'm just going to share my screen. ShinyHunters. We're going to talk about ShinyHunters. We're going to talk about what they did and how they did it. So they attacked Salesforce, as everyone knows. They used something called Aura. We're going to talk about what they did exactly. We're going to talk about what we saw, and we're going to talk about how to protect yourself, and also what you think may protect you, but actually doesn't. And then I'm going to demonstrate everything. So they use a tool called Aura Inspector, which is an open source tool that you can find on GitHub. I have it on my computer, and I'm going to show you how they used it and what the tool does. I'm going to show you the output of the tool, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like on Reco, the detections, and also the recommendations. And we're going to show you how the recommendations actually stop that kind of attack. So ShinyHunters, they are a financially motivated threat group, and the first campaign was in 2020, and they have a lot of campaigns there are a lot of campaigns that are attributed to them. For example, the 2024 Snowflake breach, the 2026 Okta breach was just a couple of months ago, and this time it was Salesforce, but it's not the first time. They have targeted Salesforce several times before. What they do is they steal data and then they demand ransom. You either pay or they leak your data. The data is usually very sensitive, PII, business secrets, and yeah, they are an AI-driven phishing expert. So phishing is voice phishing. They use voice in order to make the phishing just, it's a highly effective way to do phishing. You can convince your victim to do actions that they would normally do. And they have become quite the experts when it comes to SaaS exploitation. And let's talk about specifically the target of this campaign. So the product is Salesforce Experience Cloud. It's a Salesforce product that is used to create sites on top of Salesforce. Those sites are connected to the data in Salesforce and can write data into Salesforce. This makes it a very effective, a very convenient way to interact with your customers and partners. But it also means that there is a threat, because if it's connected to Salesforce and it's misconfigured, an attacker can use it to steal data from your Salesforce. And that's exactly what they did here. So they use a tool called Aura Inspector, which is an open source tool that uses Aura, which is the protocol used by the Lightning framework. This is how Lightning components interact with Salesforce. And it's what powers most Experience Cloud sites. The other kind of sites, there's LWR and Force.com sites, but the most common type is Aura. It abuses the permissions of the guest user, which is a user in Salesforce that represents an unauthenticated user for a specific site. So every site has a guest user. And it also means that no authentication is required. They do not have a user, they did not steal your password, they did not bypass MFA. There is no user, no authentication. Well, there is a user, the guest user, but there's no authentication and no real user. The tool itself was released by Google in January 2026. It is not the first public tool. There are many tools. There are tools such as CyrusGo and SRET that they also use Aura in order to exploit the same misconfigurations. So Aura Inspector is the first tool to use GraphQL over Aura. I actually first described that technique back in 2021, but I never released a tool that does it. It is not new. It just happened to be Aura Inspector. And what it did exactly is on March 2nd until March 7th, they attacked hundreds of victims using Aura Inspector. We know it's ShinyHunters, they took responsibility, and we have seen 4 IPs. And this user agent is the user agent, the hard-coded user agent of our inspector. We also saw this one. So it says Anthropic. It has nothing to do with Anthropic. It is not an agent. It's just our inspector using a different user agent. The second wave started on March 13th. We believe it was until March 15th. Um, we they used these 3 IPs, different IPs. We do not know if it's ShinyHunters or a different group, but we actually saw more victims this time. And so those threat groups, what do they do with it? So ShinyHunters, their business model is extortion. They demand a ransom, and if you don't pay, they leak your data. And companies who do pay a lot of money, and that's a business model. With things like CRM and PII, it's possible that they also use it to weaponize the data for their campaigns, for their vision campaign. So if they have data about the vendors, executives, the name of the IT admins, and the internal business information, they can use it using their AI tools to create a believable story and convince even more people to click on their shady things in order to hack your system. So how do you protect yourself? Well, the most important thing is review the sharing goals. So guest users are not authenticated, they are not affected by most security mechanism in Salesforce. You cannot make a record public to a guest user using OWD. You can make it public using OWD, organization by default, like you can do with internal users or even customers, partners. It does not work with guest users. You need to use share goals. It's the only way to share with a guest user. And this is the most important thing. Review every guest user sharing goal. The second thing is ensure that the user can only access objects that it needs to use. So if the guest user profile has read access and it can read account or opportunity, and there is no need for it to read an account or an opportunity, then disable that permission. There are also system permissions. System permissions are things like API or access activities. Disable every permission that the guest user does not need. For force.com sites, it is possible to actually disable Aura altogether. And if you do that, tools like Aura Inspector and the other tools I mentioned earlier, such as SRED, just do not work. I also recommend revoking the standard pages, such as search and lookup. But the most important thing is disable Lightning, so disable Aura. Additionally, consider disabling self-registration, guest access to site files, or member visibility, unless you need them. In many cases, those things are just enabled and there's no need, there's no justification for those permissions, so disable them. There are things that a lot of people believe protect you, but actually don't. We've even seen security vendors claiming that if API is disabled, then our inspector that uses GraphQL cannot interact with the site. This is false. Aura doesn't care about the API, whether you can access API or not. Salesforce considers Aura to be UI, to be Lightning. This is something that you do using the browser. So API permissions, they affect things like REST or SOAP, but not Aura, and not things that are that use Aura to communicate, such as GraphQL over Aura. There is a GraphQL directly over HTTP, which is affected by this API, by this API permission, but not GraphQL over Aura. Another thing is A very common misconception is people believe that if they disable the so-called guest user can interact with the site property, then the guest user can interact with the site. It actually affects the default access permission to site pages, but Aura is still there and Aura still works. So if the guest user is not configured correctly, if there's sharing rules or too many permissions, tools such as Aura Inspector and others can still abuse those misconfigurations, regardless of that checkbox. So let's see what it actually looks like. Here I have my Salesforce. Oh, and let me go to setup. Sites. So I have actually three sites. The first one is a force.com site and two communities. Those are digital experience, so the Experience Cloud. First, I'm going to show you the old force.com site. And I CLI, you, this is slow, refresh it. Okay, I will start with the partner site. So first thing I want to show you, this option is not enabled. So it guest users cannot interact with the site without logging in. Also, let's look at the profile. API, it's not enabled. And still, Aura still works. GraphQL still works. And as you can see, it says UI API. This stands for user interface. So this is not the API. This is affected by that permission. So an interesting thing is we can see content version. Content version is a file. The other things here are usually not super interesting. The user is only one user, which always means it's a guest user. And some internal things that are related to the site itself. But this is interesting. A content document or content version. One version for that one document. And let's look at the results. I call directory partner site. So partner site content document. You can see the name of the file is partner price list. This is its ID. I can even use it to download the file. So this here explains exactly how to do it. As you can see, it appears to be a site requires login, but Aura Inspector doesn't care about it. And now let's do this. ID. Right. I did something. Oh, what was my mistake? Oh, yeah, this is, I do not need the SEO here. So this is for partners only, and unauthentic users should definitely not see this. Right. Now let's look at other site, portal site. This site is available for guest users, but it's not what we care about. We are going to use our inspector. So, CLI. Now it's working. Okay, so here you can see contacts and accounts. And again, other things that are mostly internal, but account and contacts, that's interesting. Records, and let's look at contacts. And now we can see PII, phone number, address, the source, birth date, email, mobile phone, the name, and the others. So this is the portal side. And the last one that I want to show you is the check case, the old site, the course.com site. Python or CLI. Does not work without SLS. And the path is checklist. GraphQL through your API. It works. We're using Aura. And for the surprise, you can see cases. Oh, I forgot to provide the output. So case, this, right. This is what I typed here. Yeah. There is a site. Case. We can see the subject. We can see actual cases that users created, public customers. Right, so this is the site. Now let's look at Reco. First, I want to show you threat detections. Uh, We can see that Reco detected that a guest user used GraphQL on this IP from IP. It's exactly when it happened. And of course, the alert story. going to open the brochure again. So yeah, here our AI explains exactly what happened, who did it. I'm not gonna cover what the IP is. And yes, so the thing we cannot see here is the data that was exposed. Unfortunately, we did not see it in the logs. So the only way to do it is to look at the misconfigurations, which Reco also shows you. So the most important one, as I said, sharing rules. Reco tells you that the case side can access cases and the account side can access account. We saw contacts as well. That's because some sharing rules can also share related contacts. Specifically, contacts are often shared by accounts. And this is why we saw the accounts. It depends on the configuration of the organization. So there are two sharing rules, and we probably need to delete them. There are other important things here. For example, I'm going to look mostly about things that are related to the sites. So Lightning is enabled in the check case site. And as I said, it's a false.com site, so we can disable Lightning, so disable all altogether. And as mentioned earlier, we have two files where the guest user can see files. There's the portal one and the partners. Portal is a site that, as we saw earlier, guest user access is enabled, and maybe you want to share the files. Maybe those files are part of the portal community, but not in the partner site. In the partner site, we probably just want the files to be only accessible to the partners and not anyone in the world. Not everyone with internet access. So Reco explains exactly how to fix it. We got set up the user experiences, we go to the sites, we find something we want to fix. Go to workspaces, administration preferences, and disable this. Sharing rules, same, we can always see this every step of what we need to do. Even if you don't know how to use Salesforce, it explains exactly what you need to do. So let's do it. Well, already here, so this was Lightning. Let me open it. I need to dedicate Lightning features for this user, and I'm going to disable it. Here it says we'll click on workspaces. I'm going to open both. Portal, actually I don't need to, portal, I'm not going to disable file access, but in the partner side, I do want to disable it. So administration, preferences, and disable let's get user view asset files, library files, and save. Now, the most important thing, sharing rules. We saw two sharing rules, case and account. And here they are. So delete and delete. Okay, so we deleted the sharing settings. And now let's run our inspector. First one, check case. Round 2, I'm going to call it round 2. It does not work because we disabled all. Support our site. We deleted the sharing rules, and now So this is an experience site, an Aura site. So Aura cannot be disabled. Aura inspector still works, but now the data won't be there. So you see earlier we saw the contacts and the accounts, and now it's not here. Only the internal things, profile user, one user, and so on. And now let's look at our partner site. We saw the file earlier. Yeah, partners. Cool. So no content document this time, no content version. There's just no files right now. And yeah, that's my demonstration. And thank you, everyone.